Most entrepreneurs waste up to 10 years focusing on the wrong things. And I did too and lost out on millions. It took me 24 months to go from 0 to 4.1 million. But if I understood these 6 things sooner, I could have done it way quicker. So here are the 6 steps that I would use to do that. The first thing is to have a profit first mindset. The second thing is understanding that content is the currency of your business. The third thing is having a single platform mindset. The fourth thing is leveraging AI to be your business partner. The fifth thing is having the 80-20 rule, where you focus on the 20% of things that drive the 80% of your business. And then the sixth thing is elevating to be outside of the business instead of just working in it. So stick with me because I'll show you exactly how to apply them and the one move that tripled my profits overnight. So let's dive in. So the first thing, and it sounds really simple, but it's probably one of the most important things. Revenue leading to customers, leading to profits. So like I said in the beginning, most founders spend years focusing on the wrong things. They think that having the perfect logo is gonna save their business. Having the perfect website at launch is gonna make them millions of dollars. Hiring the right person is gonna save them all this time. But ultimately, at the end of the day, every single decision you make, you need to ask yourself, is this thing that I'm focused on gonna drive more revenue to my business? So for example, I set myself a goal when launching Elitist. I told myself within 30 days, I need to go to market and start getting my first customers. So within the first few weeks, I had already gotten my website up. I got my socials up, Instagram and Facebook and so on. The third thing was I got my first few pieces of content done. I got our products up. And then we had our first few ad campaigns ready. So within the first 30 days, we had everything going to get traffic to the website and driving sales. And the ads helped out a lot.
What would you consider to be a big distraction for business owners and founders who are maybe not focused on profit?
That's a good question. So I think the biggest distraction is taking other people's opinions, because what I like to do is when I'm working on something, I don't like to share it with the world. I think that ultimately no one has the answers better than you do. So you have to ask yourself, what are the most important things I need to do to launch my business or drive revenue for my business? So the problem people make is they ask someone who has nothing to do with their business, let's say their cousin, for their opinion on their business before they've even launched it. And their cousin will say, oh bro, you need to launch your website like this. You have to get on TikTok. You have to do this. And that just ends up mind fucking us even more. And that's not a place where you want to be. You want to have a set checklist of things that you want to launch your business with and just focus on that and go to market with that. Once you're out there, you can start to get other people's opinions and focus on that at that point.
If you were on a limited time window and budget, what would you say are the most profit focused? What are the things that are going to have the biggest impact on your profit when you're just starting out?
Just starting out, so right after you launched a business?
Yeah, or even before you launch it and just focusing on the things that are net profit impact.
Well, before launching a business, it's your product. So you want to be able to create the best product you can. And again, it sounds complicated trying to make the best product, but it just has to be better than your competitors if possible. And then once you launch, I think that your best use of time is creating great content and running ads for your content. And that's actually one of the next things that we're going to go into.
Would you say there are any mistakes that you made and that you would really have people stay away from? Because I'm sure there was more than just these 5 things that you did in the first bit.
Well, before I launched Elitist, I had ran a few other businesses and made every mistake in the book. So When I say you don't want to obsess over a logo or a slogan or this, those are all mistakes I made. I thought that thinking about all these things was going to help my business be successful. But after I launched a few businesses and started building a good business, I realized that ultimately 90% of the results came down from the few decisions that I'm going to be talking about in this video.
How much did all this cost for you to get started?
This cost me less than $1,000, probably like $600-700. The website I did by myself, which you can do with AI today in under 24 hours for free. Socials I did by myself, cost me nothing. It could take you a few hours. Creating the content was the most important thing that I spent most of the money on. But again, it didn't need to be complex. I created a few videos, a few product images, and the beautiful thing is today, there's AI to do all of that for you too. You can take a few simple pictures of your products, upload it to AI, and get beautiful product photography. So I could save that money today if I redid this again too. Product images, all of that was done through 3D animation, After Effects, again, can be done with AI. And then the ads, took the content that I created and then just ran them as ads, which I was spending about like $20-30 a day, 10 to 20 bucks actually, just to start off, just to start testing things and seeing how they were going to perform.
One final question is, I know a lot of entrepreneurs and founders have invested heavily in their business, and a lot of times that investment hasn't yielded a profit yet. At what point do you consider pivoting or giving up or realizing that you need an entirely different strategy and the profit is not meant for that type of structure or that business?
Well, giving up is never an option. So that's number one. Number two, I'd say if you're doing things, I'd like to set like a certain budget. So if I say like, I want to launch this business with, let's say 10 grand, if I get close to that and I see my strategy isn't working, then at that point I would try to figure out a different strategy and pivot. So it really depends on you, but I wouldn't spend 6 months trying to prove something out, because what I learned is if a product and a business is good enough, it should work pretty easily. So one of the biggest mistakes I made was trying to force businesses to work rather than trying to flow with the current. So don't always try to fight your business. Ultimately, take a step back and ask yourself, what's the one thing I need to learn right now for my business to get to the next level? So again, it's going to go back to the few things we're going to talk about: content, ads, and a few other things. Okay, so the next part is probably the most important because it's the highest leverage thing you could be doing. And I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. It's what I call a content flywheel. Now, this isn't anything new, but it's, like I said, one of the most important things. So you have to think that content is the currency of your business, because content on social media is what builds trust with your brand. It tells people what you stand for, what your culture is, your messaging, obviously your products, and so on. Content is the vehicle you use to sell your products. And ultimately, the more content you create, the more products and customers you will get. The more products you will sell, the more customers you will get. So I want you to remember that this is, every time you're thinking about creating more content, just remember that you're creating more revenue for your business. So typically what we would be doing is we would create organic content for our pages. So we would make videos, we would make images, we would make, let's say, carousels. All of this is different formats of content that we would be creating. And then we would also have the kinds of content we're creating, such as like product-based stuff, content with influencers to build credibility, brand content, so like content from the brand, from the founder. I mean, the opportunities are endless. So you need to get in the habit of creating consistent content. And once you do that, there's an opportunity to enhance that. So posting organically, there's always going to be a limited amount of reach you can get for your content. But the beautiful thing is you can use ads to amplify your content and drive more reach and more customers and more leads. So for example, if I was to post 30 pieces of content a month, I can spend $5, $10 behind each piece of content to see if the results that I could get through ads. And the beautiful thing is when I first launched the business, all I started with was $5 a day, testing different pieces of content and different audiences for my brand. And within the first few weeks, we started getting a few orders. So I spent $50, I got one sale. And that woke up my eyes that, okay, we have a profitable campaign here. And for my business, Elitist, we were selling wall art and neon LED signs, and our average order value was $500. So we would spend $50, get an order, which was $500 in revenue. So slowly over time, pretty quickly, we started increasing this from $5 to $10 a day, 20, 30, etc. And we just kept growing the business that way. So, for example, if you think about this on, let's say, a graph, we started right here and we started posting content, and then we started to see growth, but it was never consistent, and then we'd see a crash again, and then we'd keep going. So this over here was where content came in. We saw these little bursts of revenue from content, and then we started to run some ads to test things out, to test these pieces of content. And once we started doing that, we started seeing consistent growth, which was more predictable, because the organic reach is not predictable. Today you might reach 1,000 people, tomorrow you might reach 100 people. But with ads, you control the reach with your budget. So once we learned that, we started spending on ads, and the ads lifted the tides for everything. As that started happening over the next few months, we started reaching hundreds of thousands and millions of people with our ads, and then we started to get inbound business opportunities. So we started having influencers reach out to us. They were reaching out, asking us for products, asking to work with us. So what we started doing is we started sending them products, and then they were creating content for us. So they would send us that content, and then we would run ads to it and just do it all over again. So this allowed us to start spending more and more and more money and keep growing the revenue for the business. So influencers started reaching out, then big celebrities started reaching out, like NBA players. They started asking us for products. They wanted to work with us. We have customers from like Jamal Murray from the Denver Nuggets, Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat, so many different NBA players, and then football players. And all of this was coming from just reaching more people through our ads. And then the next thing was we started getting brands reaching out to us and wanting to work with us. We did a licensing deal with Rick and Morty. So we did neon signs that were faces of Rick, faces of Morty, Pickle Rick sign, and all that came from ads. So if I had to really boil down my business and my focus restarting, it would come down to creating the best content as I can, as consistently as possible, and then having an ads engine and just continuing to scale that and just like focusing on that.
for a brand or a founder, what is the best way to look at content and how to start making content if you're not already actively doing that?
So what is the best way to start creating content if you don't know it?
Or if you're not a natively content generating company?
Yeah. Well, there's 3 ways to do it. Number 1 is to partner with influencers and pay them to create you content, which personally is my favorite strategy because, and I wouldn't use huge influencers. I would use micro influencers, someone with 10, 20, 30,000 followers, because they're more cost effective to work with. And most of the time you can work with them for free by just sending them product. So I would partner with influencers to create content for your products, such as like testimonials, product demos, lifestyle content, so on. That's the first thing I would do. Second thing is I would work with someone who has experience with creating content. So I would onboard like a content manager or so on. Because the best thing I've learned in life is to pay someone for their 10,000 hours. So if someone has dedicated their life to learning how to create the best content possible, I would just pay them to come do that for me. And then the third thing is I would just watch YouTube videos for like a week, trying to learn as much as possible, because at the end of the day, you can't really hire for something without having a basic understanding. So those are the 3 things that I would be doing to be able to create great content for my brand.
How much content should a brand be posting?
It depends on your product. Let's say if you're a service-based business, it's going to be different than e-commerce business. But like I said, the more you post, the better off you're typically going to be, as long as you're not creating crap. For us personally, we were trying to post daily. Every single day we do at least 1 post. But ultimately, after a year into the business, we got to a point where we were running, testing at least 5 to 10 ads a day. So that's how you just continue to grow the business. But again, you start off at one piece and you just keep building that up.
Is there a format you would recommend that worked for you or other businesses should automatically be focused on?
Again, it depends on your business and what platform you're also on. Typically, video is the best because it gives you the opportunity to build more rapport, build trust, and so on than just one image does. So for us, again, selling LED neon signs, it was a very visual product. So we would put these signs up in home offices, bedrooms, and so on. So everything worked really well. Images worked really well for us. Videos worked really well for us because with videos we got to do like testimonials, product demos, unboxings, which those were killer for us. Those were our best ads. And then we were able to make everything work, carousels, so on. So it just depends on your product, but you should be able to find the angle for every single kind of brand. There should be a way where you could package it up from a video to an image.
Now you said ads were your multiplier and you were spending ads to make your content really grow. But do you have any kind of recommendations around how much money you should be spending on ads versus content as a business just starting out? Or is there any kind of magic number to how much you should be spending on each of those?
I don't think there's a magic number. Ultimately, I think that most of your revenue is going to go towards ads. That's what we were doing. So we would spend, I'd say like $3,000 a month creating content. And then we would also get a lot of inbound content from the influencers we were working with. And then we were spending like 80, sometimes 6 figures a month on ads. So our ads budget was 30 times bigger than our content budget. So it depends on your business again. But your goal should be spending majority of your budget on the ads.
You make 100 pieces of content. How many pieces of content should I be looking at as being successful? Or what is considered, if I see 5 of those videos going somewhat viral or getting organic reach, is that a good number, a bad number? Or is there a ratio I should be looking for?
For us, typically, it was between 5 to 10%. I would say like 3% of our content ended up driving over 50% of our revenue. There were just a few videos that made $500,000 in revenue for us, which are like unboxing videos and product demos and so on. So most of your revenue is going to come from a few pieces. It's not linear. So let's get to the next point.
As a business owner, how should we be thinking about the different platforms and advertising and creating content for those platforms?
You just asked a very loaded question, and I think we need to take a step back and start from the beginning. So I think that you said how to do it for all the platforms. I think that's the wrong mindset. I think you need a one platform mindset. So you need to focus on mastering one platform. One. For us, with Elitist, we were focused on Instagram. Our product was very visual. We were selling a product, consumer product, so Instagram was a natural channel. We didn't choose TikTok because on TikTok, people aren't used to purchasing high value items. On Instagram, people spend $500 like it's nothing. So Instagram made sense for us. So we focused on just that one platform. So you have to ask yourself a few questions. Who is my ideal customer? You have to base that also around your price point of your product. Where are my customers spending their money? And what platform aligns most naturally with my product? So to answer your question, it's not about creating content for every platform. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, etc. You'll spread yourself way too thin. The reality is every single platform has enough room to drive 8 figures, 9 figures in revenue for your business. So you need to focus on one, master it, and then once you get to 8 figures, 10 million plus, then you can focus on the next platform. But learn everything you can about that one platform. Learn how to create the best videos for Instagram, for example. Learn how to create carousels that tell stories. Learn how to create product imagery. Learn how to create the best testimonial videos for Instagram. There's so much skill on that one platform that you need to focus on just mastering that. So to answer your question, how do you learn to create that content? Well, that goes back to what I was saying about either working with someone who already creates content on the platform, but I would bet the best place to create content would be working with either influencers or customers, because nowadays people don't really like to follow brands. They like to follow people. So align your product with people. Get your customers talking about the experience they've had with your product, or get influencers talking about how much they love your product. And that's what I would focus on in the beginning.
What are some strategies you would use nowadays to get an advantage on Instagram or TikTok?
I think it also goes back to what I was saying of leveraging other people to create content for you. So for example, TikTok now has TikTok Shop, where you can have TikTokers creating you content. On Instagram, you can be partnering with influencers to have them create you content. You want to be thinking about what's the most highest leverage way to get the most out of your time. Would you rather go and try to make one piece of content yourself over the next week, like one video, or would you rather get 10 micro influencers to create you 10 videos over the next week? I bet you the 10 videos are going to probably perform better than the one video you create. So again, it's just leveraging other people to help grow your brand. And this is a mistake I made too. When we crossed over $1 million, I got into my head again and I started telling myself, oh, we're only on Instagram right now. What if, imagine if we made $1 million on Instagram, if we made another $1 million on TikTok. So what did I do? I went and I shifted my focus onto something that's never worked for us, which was TikTok. I spent the next 3 months trying to figure out TikTok when I should have just focused on getting this from 1 million to 2 million. Whereas I was trying to get this from 0 to 10K. I could have shifted that energy and made $1 million more money. So it didn't make any sense. And that's the point. It's like, to go and learn a new platform, you have to learn so much about it. You got to learn what kind of content the users are consuming, how the influencers do deals on the platform, how the algorithm there works, and so on and so forth. That's months and months of information where it's like all that energy needed to go back here. It needed to go here because what I ended up realizing is that Instagram could have made 4 million for us, which it did. It could have made 8 million too, which is going to. So all your energy needs to go into the places that are working, because you don't have the energy or the resources in the beginning to dedicate it to multiple things.
So once you've achieved mastery over a platform, when is it smart to start expanding?
I don't think, I think that ultimately it's smart to expand once you get close to 8 figures, because at that point now you want to de-risk your business and you don't want to rely your entire business on one platform where it's like, okay, if our Instagram page gets banned or whatever it is, our business just completely goes to 0. So it's like, once your business becomes big enough, then you can hire someone to grow TikTok for you. As a founder or as someone who's really high up in the company where you're doing so many different things, you should not be spending your time learning new things at that point. Because now you've made money, and with your money, the best thing to do is hire and pay someone for their 10,000 hours. So there's people who have spent way more time on TikTok than I have. I'd rather have them come and do it for me. I don't need to do it myself. That's the whole benefit of making money in business. It's buying back your time.
When you're looking for someone to help you, whether it be hire or consult, and you're looking for them to help you master a platform, any recommendations for helping you with that?
In terms of the hiring process, or?
Yeah, or finding that person that's going to be able to help you achieve mastery.
That's a great question. So I typically like to do 2 things. Number 1, I like to come back to YouTube and watch content on YouTube from people who have mastered this. So I'll watch people who are running $1 million businesses on TikTok, and I'll reach out to them directly. Hey, I see you've built a $1 million TikTok shop brand. I'd love to pay you for your time and work with you and either learn from you or get someone from your team to help me. So that's one thing that I love to do. And then what was the other part of your question?
How would you go about, what advice would you give someone who wants to master a platform but doesn't have the skill set to do so? And how do you find those people that are going to help you do that?
Yeah, it goes back to, I typically don't like to work with anyone nowadays that hasn't done it themselves. So even if it's someone I'm going to hire internally full time, I need to see that they've created a community themselves. So if I'm going to hire a TikTok social media manager, that person better have created a community. I want to see that she has, let's say 20, 30, 50 or 100K followers, and then I can see she's done it for herself, so she can do it again. But if someone comes to me and gives me a whole pitch and they don't have the proof to show me, nowadays I don't really take it serious. So I just go based off people's track records.
With the release of AI and everything that's happening right now, how can a business owner get the most out of it? And how can they achieve what wasn't possible 10 years ago now faster than ever?
Chris, you like asking very loaded questions. I like it. But we gotta take a
Step
back again.
All right.
I think nowadays you need to look at AI as your free business partner. It costs you nothing now to have the ultimate business partner. No equity, no salary, nothing. So nowadays, what you used to take, let's say you want to get a website up, which would take a month, you need to hire someone to create a website for you, pay $1,000 or whatever. Now you can do that for free. So ultimately, like I've shifted more so to a thinker role rather than a doer role, because AI can do most of the things for me and save me my time. And the one thing that AI can't replicate is me. And I need to keep the ideas coming for the business. So AI can do everything else. So for example, I've fed all the advertising data from our Facebook and Instagram ads into ChatGPT. And I had to find trends for me that found the outliers of the best campaigns for the business. And ultimately, it showed me 3 very important trends in the business that I should have been focusing on more. There were a few campaigns that were driving most of the revenue, but those campaigns had a similar trend. So 3 videos drove like 800K in revenue for us through ads. And the funny thing is, all 3 of them were testimonials and product demos. But there was also another thing in here. It wasn't testimonials from customers and it wasn't product demos from customers. It was from influencers. So the trend we found was that influencers creating these testimonial videos and putting up their neon signs on their walls were the best performing ads. So here we were for months making testimonials from customers, we were making brand content, we were making all these different forms of content, but it was 3 things that when coming together were driving the majority of the revenue. And again, I could have realized that myself, but again, it took me way longer to realize than it did by just feeding it to AI and reading the trends. So leverage AI to help you come to conclusions quicker, because like I said, it costs you nothing to do and you can buy back so much of your time with that. So you have to take advantage of it.
A lot of times I struggle with AI just giving me generic responses and things that are not really valuable to me. How can I get more out of it if it's going to be my business partner?
So you have to treat AI just like any other person. The more you invest into it, the more better it's going to be able to take care of yourself. So just like with a business partner, if you just neglect the business partner, you don't give it insights into the business, you don't have it understand what's going on in the business, he can't really give you good feedback. So the more you feed into the AI, like the data, the numbers, the results, etc., the more insight you can give, the better results you'll get back from the AI.
You talked a bit about how AI was a great data partner for you and you were able to use to review and find insights in your data, but like what are some immediate things that business owners can use AI for right now that will dramatically enhance their operations?
There's a lot of things. Ideation, advertising copy, content scripts, content ideas, website creation. I mean, so many different things. At the beginning of the video, I showed you the things I had to do in the first 30 days to launch the business. The content, the social medias, the website, the ads. I could have probably done that in less than a week if I was using AI. So probably 80% of the things you're working on right now can be done without you having to do it yourself. And then I think this can naturally lead to the next point of the 80-20 rule, because like I said, leveraging AI made me understand a lot of parts of my business. So ultimately, there were three major things that drove 80% of my results, which is crazy. Over the 2 years, there were 3 decisions I made that drove the majority of our revenue. So number 1 was the influencer collabs, influencer content. Number 2, email and SMS, and I'll explain all of this right now. And number 3 is ads. So literally, if I just focused on doing this with 80% of my time, I could have just kept growing the business much, much quicker. So first thing would be getting influencer content. And then number 2, feeding that into ads. And then number 3, making money through email and SMS in the back end. So let me use an example of this. Let's say we had one of those influencer videos that drove us $500,000 in revenue. From that, we had, what we would do is we would take that video and get it. The goal was to spend as much money as we can through advertising behind it. So we were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars behind that video because that was profitably making us revenue. And then through that, we were able to get more and more people into our funnel. So we had a funnel, which was basically, it started with the influencer content, and then it would come into this bucket of people in here. And these were people who were coming to our website, who were adding to cart, who were checking out, who were giving us our emails. And then what we were ultimately able to do is get these people to come back and buy again through email and SMS. Now, this only drove, let's say, I believe maybe like 10% of our revenue. But the thing is, it was 80% of our profit. So this was the most important thing to unlocking the business, because it allowed us to make more money, to invest more into the business. And then we were using ads to just fuel the whole system. So kind of goes back to the flywheel that I discussed before. But by adding the email and SMS, it really blew things up and allowed us to triple our profits overnight. And these were the 3 things that I personally, as a founder, should have been spending more time on. I should have focused on getting us more influencers. I should have gotten us making more ads and more campaigns, and gotten us focusing more on the bottom line revenue through email and SMS, which ultimately I realized a year into the business and allowed me to grow the business much quicker, which I'm going to be discussing right after this. You have any questions, Chris?
Hold on.
So this goes back to the point of where people spend so much time thinking about things that don't move the needle. If I spent months on my logo and things like that, I wouldn't be able to come to these realizations quicker. So you have to focus on the things that drive the most revenue for the business.
Can you give some examples of things that are part of the low, that aren't going to generate you the return on your efforts?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I'd say 90% of the ideas you have are not going to drive revenue for you. So most of the things you can probably think about in your business right now, if you ask yourself, how much more revenue is this going to drive for us? Probably won't be much at all. So for us, it was the three things that drove pretty much all our revenue. Everything else, I would say, is a distraction for us. So if the entire team focused on bettering one of these three parts of the engine, we would be going way further with our car. So it's like building a car. The more you improve it, the better engine you put into it, the better gas, the faster and further it's gonna go. So you have to always go back to making sure that car is running on the right gas.
A lot of founders and business owners, they get stuck thinking about the perfect logo, the perfect font for their website, the perfect design, the perfect color, all these different things that probably don't result in any actual net revenue on the bottom line of the business. How does a business owner make sure they're not stuck on low margin activities?
It's a great question. That's why you have me. I'll be the one who reminds you that you're wasting your time
Make sure to subscribe
about that crap. Yeah, subscribe for that reason. It goes back to leveraging your free business partner, AI. I would ask you questions like, hey, I'm working on this, and do you think that it's important to driving to the bottom line profits of the business? And you'll get an answer pretty quickly. See, most of us starting a business 5, 10, 15 years ago, if you were starting a business the first time, you didn't really have the resources, like the people around you to give you insight. A lot of people don't have mentors. A lot of people don't have business partners. A lot of people don't have someone by their side to be giving them that feedback in real time. So it's like anything you can do is like get in the right communities, like for example, this one, talk to the right people, leverage AI, just always get feedback on your business because people have experiences and have solved those problems before you. So it's like, instead of trying to spend months and years figuring it out like I did, because this is like a 12-year journey at the end of the day. I started working at 12 years old, building my first business at like 16. So yeah, I built this business in 24 months, but this was over a decade in the process. So if I had those people around me, those communities, those people to talk to, which I have today, I would be able to go 10 times quicker. So
what was the moment you realized you had to stop working in the business, almost like an employee, and start working on the business?
Man. This one I still struggle with today, but like you said, work on the business, not in it. Now you asked me when was the moment I realized that this was something. When I burnt out. When I was growing the business and I just was way too in the weeds, way too stressed out, way too into my head, I took some time to get away and reflect, and I realized ultimately the problem was that I was constantly working on the business, running ads, creating content, talking to influencers, spending all my time doing things, but never spending time thinking about things. So this was probably one of the most important unlocks as well, because it allowed me to be me again, and ultimately no one thinks about the business or can think about the business really the way a founder can. So I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are stuck in their businesses trying to figure it out, where if they took a step back and they took maybe a week off and took a trip, they would be able to come up with way better realizations and motivation than just working on the same crap every single day. So I think that once you start growing the business and you feel like you're doing way too much and you don't have a lot of free time, that is the time to ask yourself this question and ask, am I really working on the business or in it? And your goal should always be to working on the business. You never want to be in it at scale, because then you're going to be the only limitation to the business. And I realized this again once after we hit our first million. We had so many different pieces of the business going: customer service, product fulfillment, ads, content, influencers, and I had my hand in all of that. But then I realized what the 80-20 of the business was, and I shifted my focus to that and started to bring on people to help me with the rest. So all the other things, customer service, I took that all off my plate, and all I was focused on was getting more influencers and launching more campaigns. And this ultimately doubled our revenue over the next 3-4 months. We went from 2 million to 4 million that same year. Whereas we were stuck at 2 million for a few months. So you always have to be asking yourself, okay, what's the next thing I have to overcome to get to that next level in our business? And for me, it was overseeing the business rather than working in it.
So you bought back your freedom and you brought back your time. What was the big hire decision, or just overall personal decision, that unlocked the biggest growth for you?
The biggest hire?
The biggest hire, or just generally decision about this that unlocked the biggest growth for you?
If I had to say a hire, it was, again, going back to the 80-20 rule and realizing that the more content we got and the more campaigns we launched, the more revenue we were making. And again, I can't stress that enough, because it really did boil down to that. And I ended up hiring a creative director who was able to increase our output of content, and that way we can release more campaigns. So we went from maybe launching 1 or 2 ads a day to launching over 5 ads a day, at one point like 10. And again, that allowed us to start spending more on advertising and start making a lot more. But that also made me realize another thing, is that you're always one hire away from growing your business tremendously. So just like you ask yourself, what's the next skill I could learn to grow the business? Sometimes you can also be asking, what's the next hire I can make to get the business to the next level? And for us, it was that. But see, like all of these things, I wouldn't be realizing this if I didn't have the time to think. Constantly always working on the business got me stuck to not being able to think freely. So being able to take myself out of the business more, I was able to start thinking and coming up with these conclusions and being able to get to the next levels of business.
How do you decide what roles you want to hire for and what roles you want to keep to yourself?
It just has to align with who you are as a person. For me personally, I know that I enjoy and I'm really good at marketing. I'm good at like relationships, business development. I really love like sales, marketing, and revenue. So like I always wanted to be a part of that. But like everything else, I didn't enjoy it, nor was I good at it. So It ultimately comes down to who you are as a person and what you want to be working on in your business. Take what you're good at, do more of it. Take what you're bad at and hire other people. It's simple as that. That took me from sleeping on the couch to building a multi-million-dollar business. So if you're serious about growing, hit subscribe and join us. But don't stop here. Click now to watch how I reinvested $60,000 of my business profits and turned it into $2 million. Let's start building your millionaire mindset together. I'll see you there.